Ryan Bates gets traded by Brandon Beane, giving us an additional 5th-round pick and also $1+ million off the salary cap. Ryan Bates has been here for an awfully long time, and one thing that we could say about him is that he was versatile. He could play tackle, he could play guard, he could play center. He really could play all 5 positions across that offensive line. And this had to be a tough decision for Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, Aaron Cromer to part ways with Ryan Bates. But I think a 5th-round pick for Ryan Bates is actually pretty nice. There's a lot of depth in this year's NFL draft. Now, the Bills are definitely heavy on day 3, day 4 of the NFL draft. We have a ton of late-round picks, only a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So, man, Brandon Beane is definitely going to be eyeing up some depth in this year's NFL draft. And we've been talking about it before even letting go of Ryan Bates, that the Bills might be better bringing in an additional offensive lineman here, signing him via the NFL draft, simply because of what we saw last year with Ken Dorsey and also Joe Brady with these 6 offensive lineman packages, even at times having David Edwards out there, rotating guys in and out, kind of just being another offensive lineman extending out to the perimeter, even pulling them across the line of scrimmage as the ball was getting snapped. So, the Buffalo Bills are definitely going to be eyeing up some offensive linemen in this year's draft. Plus, you consider Mitch Morris kind of getting up in age, right? Being in the final years of his contract here, I thought Ryan Bates would be a good player to sit behind, right? To kind of take over Mitch Morris if he does end up leaving. But the Bills are kind of hitting the restart button. Obviously, we've been paying Ryan Bates a lot of money. We've been paying Mitch Morris a lot of money. We got Osiris Torrance on a rookie deal. Spencer Brown still technically on a rookie deal too. But we really need to find additional ways to get younger at certain positions and also save money. And Ryan Bates parting ways to the Chicago Bears for a 5th-round pick. I think we could easily draft a 5th-round offensive lineman in this year's NFL draft, and he could get fairly close to the play of Ryan Bates. Now, I think one thing that we are going to definitely be missing is just the overall versatility. It's extremely rare for an offensive lineman to play tackle, to play guard, to play center, to be able to play literally left tackle, right tackle, like play all 5 spots on that offensive line. So, what is the true value of that? And it is extremely high, but I know the Bills definitely still want players that are versatile. They want players that can play multiple positions, that are cross-trained, and I'm definitely thinking the Bills are going to be eyeing that up. So again, I think just to summarize, a 5th-round pick for Ryan Bates is definitely a solid draft pick. We got Ryan Bates here for free, right? So to bring him in and get a 5th-round pick without ever spending a draft pick on him, we plucked him from free agency. I've been doing that for a long time, and I've been thinking that for a long time. You bring in these dynamic players via free agency, and then you trade them for draft picks. You're spending the money in free agency without wasting any draft picks, and then you're getting a draft pick. It's similar to what they say with like quarterbacks. Like, you miss on a franchise quarterback, how long it sets your franchise behind. And I think you miss on really any draft pick, it sets you behind no matter what. Like, you really need to make sure that you're hitting a home run on almost every single draft pick in order for your team to ultimately be successful. But when you get someone from free agency like a Ryan Bates, you develop them. You put the coaching staff, the trust in your coaching staff. That's why the Bills emphasize having such great coaches here in Buffalo. We cater to these players. We make them the best versions of themselves. We raise their stock, and we could trade them away for a 5th-round pick. So the Bills definitely have a ton of draft picks in this year's NFL draft, but I don't know if we're going to stay put. I think Brandon Beane is going to be doing a lot of wheeling and dealing, especially with all these 5th-round picks and 6th-rounders that we have. Like, we could definitely climb up into the 3rd with it. Maybe we trade away a bunch and get into like the bottom of the 2nd too. So, and you really look at all the talent coming out. I think wide receiver is probably one of the deepest classes of wide receiver in a very, very long time. I mean, it starts at the very top with Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you got Jerry Rice's son, and then you got Christian McCaffrey's brother. Like, I mean, these guys are all in between dynamic pieces coming out in this year's NFL draft. Like, the Bills are definitely going to be falling in love with at least 1, 2, 3 of these wide receivers. And heck, I know we're going to definitely be drafting a wide receiver in this year's NFL draft, potentially a couple of them. And I don't know. I really am liking that. But it really starts, I think, with offensive line. This is really developing into be a real hole on this team. And considering that we're paying Ryan Bates a lot of money, we're paying Connor McGovern a lot of money, Deion Dawkins, Mitch Morris, I think it makes a lot of sense to draft maybe 1 or 2 offensive linemen in this year's NFL draft. Like, I really think, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Deontay Hardy, Stephon Diggs, like, we have some depth at wide receiver. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs and what they had, it wasn't like they didn't have a ton of depth, right? So, I don't know. I really think offensive line is starting to brew up to be one of those holes on this team. I mean, Mitch Morris clearly older than Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs definitely still has more in the tank. But bringing in another perimeter threat to Stephon Diggs should maybe lessen the wear and tear on his body throughout the season. It's not only about just pacing Josh Allen. It's about pacing all of your players throughout the season so that they're fresh and ready to go come playoff time. And, I don't know. And I do believe it also boils down to how teams were playing Stephon Diggs, right? They're double covering Stephon Diggs because we didn't have a true number 1 wide receiver opposite of Stephon Diggs. Like, we need 2 true number 1 wide receivers. And Greg Cosell saying that Diggs is not a number 1 wide receiver anymore in this league, I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. I know Diggs still has it, but we need to do our part and open things up. And we did it with Dalton Kincaid. We started doing it with Khalil Shakir, but they're middle of the field slot wide receiver type threats. Like, we need an opposite perimeter threat to Stephon Diggs. But how good is that if we're not blocking the guys up front? And this trade with Ryan Bates for a 5th-round pick, I think, is absolutely huge. This opens the door for Brandon Beane to select not even just 1 offensive lineman in this year's NFL draft, but 2. We could easily see a tackle and a guard get selected, or, a hybrid guard center, hybrid tackle guard, just to kind of mitigate any risk of them not balling out at that position. But I appreciate you guys all so much. I know I'm dropping videos every other day instead of every day here, just trying to focus on my job. But you guys could see Course Careers in the link in the description. You can receive $50 off, land a high-paying career in digital advertising, tech sales, software development, IT, data analytics. Like, there's a ton of career paths, and that's exactly how I landed my full-time job. But I appreciate you guys. Hit like and subscribe, and go Bills.